Come on in, honey. The lantern's lit, the veil is a little thin, and the wind's been dying to carry a few secrets your way. Welcome to Raven's Ramblings, where the shadows walk beside us and the past never stays buried, and a good spell can speak louder than a sermon. I'm Raven Nightingale, part healer, part hellraiser, keeper of the old ways and ghost stories alike. So pull up a chair, listen close. You never know what might be whispering in the dark. Hello, my blooming witches and pastel-loving pagans. Welcome back to Raven's Ramblings, your seasonal sanctuary for magical musings and witchy wisdom. I'm Raven, and today we're going to be talking about Ostara. The spring equinox. It is when day and night are in perfect balance and the earth herself stretches and yawns and everything is starting to bloom again. So light some incense, open your windows, maybe pet a bunny if you've got one, because that's awesome and bunnies are super soft. I love bunnies. Because spring is in the air on this episode and the magic of Ostara is just getting started. So, Ostara, the spring equinox Sabbath, the dates are usually between March 19th through the 23rd, usually falls around the 20th, 21st sometimes. I always remember this one because my anniversary is, of course, March 20th. So, it is also known as, and I know I'm going to mess this pronunciation up, but it's going to be close enough you're going to see where some things come from. Ostara is what it's also known as. That's the one of the goddesses of spring. The vernal equinox, and in the Druid tradition, it is Alban Ilir. Yeah, I know I messed that all up, but you see where I'm going. But the main one that I always pay attention to is the Istra, because what's that sound like? Easter. Same kind of stuff happening there. Okay, so origins and history of Ostara. It is rooted in an ancient celebration of the spring equinox, which is, of course, when the light begins to win over the darkness and everything in nature is starting to come awake. A lot of things hibernate during the winter, and even we as people, as humans, kind of hibernate a little bit, especially those that kind of get the winter blues and stuff. We kind of keep to ourselves, keep in our homes, that kind of stuff. But everything is starting to awaken from that winter slumber. So that, like I said, the name Ostara is derived from Istra, which was a Germanic goddess associated with dawn, renewal, fertility, and the rising sun. So the 8th century monk Bede referred to her in his writings, although some of the more modern historians kind of debate the extent of her actual historical worship. But still, these are the themes that are associated with Istra, which is rebirth, eggs, hares or rabbits, and springtime. So these kinds of things echo across many different traditions and are deeply embedded in what we know today as Ostara rituals. And honestly, it's a lot of people practice these in their Easter traditions. Cool, right? Because as you guessed it, this is where a lot of those Easter symbols came from. Eggs, rabbits, resurrection themes, rebirth, all that stuff, all witch approved right there. Yeah, that's my papers flipping because I have to have my notes. I'm getting old. I can't remember shit anymore. So this Sabbath kind of reflects a perfect balance of that light and dark. Everything is equal in length, and after this point of the year is when the days begin to grow longer. So the daylight is taking over again. So it makes it a celebration of renewal, of new beginnings, fertility, that kind of stuff. Ancient cultures usually honored this balance with planting festivals because this was the springtime. This is when you would plant the fields and stuff. So you would be able to grow all those crops and harvest in the summertime and in the fall to be able to make it through the winter. Along with planting festivals, they also did fertility rites and lighting of sacred fires, because after Ostara is when we get to Beltane, which is huge fire festival. So this is a perfect time for manifestation magic, goal setting, because that's that renewal and rebirth kind of thing, and letting kind of your energy out into the world after we've kind of hibernated for the winter. All right. So it is very open. Everything is coming alive. Everything is waking back up again. The earth is being, in essence, reborn, because this is when everything is really getting green and waking up. So, different symbols and correspondences. Colors. I always love the colors. Colors, and I don't wear a lot of colors. I am not one of those pastel-loving pagans. The majority of my clothes are black because colors distract my brain. It's too much. But for this Sabbath, colors, different pastels, of course, which is very common for springtime, like the greens and yellows and lavender, that pretty sky blue, light pinks, that kind of stuff. Very pastel, very Easter, if you could hear my quotation marks. Very Easter, very springtime, those kinds of colors. Different symbols that we use for Ostara. Eggs, hares or rabbits, depending on, what size you're looking at and what different species, subset, and all that. Because they're not exactly the same. They're a little bit different. Same kind of animal, but not exactly. That's not the point. Y'all don't care about that. I know. More symbols. Seeds, butterflies, because this is when all the butterflies are turning into their chrysalis and emerging and being born and all that. Spring flowers, all those beautiful marigolds and irises and all those gorgeous things. All that is symbols of springtime. Nest, like bird's nest, birds themselves, the sunrise. These are all rebirth, renewal, fertility kind of things. Like we have, personally, I always know when springtime is getting close because I start hearing the birds that come and like to nest in our chimney. I know. I've talked to my wife. One day we're going to get them out of there and put a little gate thing or grate up, but we have not done it yet. So right now I use those as my warning symbol of, hey, springtime. It's here. I hear the birds again. Different crystals that are associated with this are rose quartz, which is associated with love. Amethyst, associated with the intuition. Aquamarine, if I can get my words together, that's associated with emotional healing. Moss agate, growth. All of these things go back into that renewal and rebirth and stuff. New beginnings. It's perfect. Different herbs and plants that you can use. Dandelions, because everybody knows this is the time, or that's the time of year that dandelions start popping up. Tulips, daffodils. I love daffodils. I know they're a very simple but overlooked flower, but I love them. Violets, nettles. We have tons of nettles in my area. Clover. My whole backyard, I think, is at one time or another covered in clover, and my wife gets mad at me because I tell her we can't mow yet because the bees. The bees need to eat, and then once they've kind of died down a little bit and have moved on to other things that are growing, then we can mow the backyard because bees love clover. Honeysuckle. Everybody loves honeysuckle. And lemongrass. So these are just different things that you can use as herbal blends or teas, or make sure that they're, edible for safe for ingesting, that kind of stuff. But it's all comes back to that springtime. Different foods that we can use: eggs, of course, honey, back to those bees, sprouts, leafy greens, dairy, seeds, bread, and mead. Everybody loves mead, right? I love mead. I haven't had any in a while, but I do love it. So another thing we can use to kind of honor Ostara is different deities. Ostara is an actual springtime goddess, so that's one we can definitely set an extra candle out. Persephone, Demeter, Flora, Pan, Freya, Bridget, which we talked about in our last episode. Pan. Oh, wait, I already said Pan. Look at me. The Green Man. That's a good one for this time of year. Or any deity that is associated with springtime, fertility, or the dawn. Any of those go great with Ostara. They all kind of represent the same kind of stuff. So animals, this is a new one for me again. Trying to associate different animals with different Sabbats and stuff. Rabbits, chickens, of course, lambs, bees, songbirds, those kinds of things. And that's why during the springtime you see a lot of little chicks for sale and little bunnies for sale, and people go and get them for their children. And I think that is, for the most part, a terrible idea, because it's super cute and super fun for about a day and a half, and then bad things. And so I think that's a terrible idea. I don't think people should be giving animals like that to kids. But that's just me. My opinion, nobody else's. And that's coming from someone who grew up on a farm who had baby chickens and stuff like that. But still. Anyway, off that soapbox. Element. An actual element that we can use to help celebrate Ostara is air. Air is associated with new ideas, with inspiration, with cleansing, renewals, that kind of stuff. But we also want to be grounded in earth, because we're focusing on growing things too. Even the daylight is growing, so everything is growing and changing. Different themes and magical focuses that we can kind of, point ourselves toward in a way. Fertility and creativity. The earth itself is fertile again, so are our ideas. So this is a great time of year to plant seeds, whether that be literal seeds or metaphorical seeds. Work on those intentions and stuff. Balance and equilibrium. So the equinox kind of teaches us to seek more balance in our lives, because honestly, a lot of us are way more work than we are rest, and we need to work on those kinds of balances. And that's super hard to do in this day and age, because we are a work-based society. But we need to try to find that balance between work and rest, light and shadow, logic and emotion. Find those balances, okay? So, new beginnings. It's very similar to like New Year's Day for spiritual planting, because it is kind of a new beginning again. It's the springtime. Everything's new. So rebirth, fresh starts, and cleansing are extremely important. We're going to focus on awakening. So as nature is awakening, so are we. This is a time to kind of gently reawaken our spiritual selves after a winter's rest kind of thing. Because like I said, we as humans do tend to kind of hibernate a lot in the winter. So we want to kind of wake ourselves back up. We want to focus on growth and intention. So what you plant in your mind now, with your intentions, with your thoughts, with your actions, these are the things that are going to grow in the seasons ahead. So focus on that a little bit. write down those intentions, and we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit more in some journal prompts and stuff. But pay attention to yourself. What do you want to see yourself doing in 4 or 5 months or 6 months or a year? I mean, whatever. Think about those kinds of intentions. So a couple of ritual ideas and different little practices. We could do some planting rituals. Plant actual seeds, whether it be in a small cup, or if you have an actual garden or a flower bed or something like that, plant a seed. I mean, even something as simple as taking, I don't know if y'all did this, but in grade school, you would get a bean and wrap it in a wet paper towel until it sprouted just that little bit. And then you would plant it in some soil that they put in like a little styrofoam cup and watch it sprout out of the soil and stuff. And then you would take it home and, well, most people would probably just throw it away. But you could plant that and watch that grow and stuff. So remember that kind of stuff. Plant seeds, whether indoors, outdoors, whatever. Plant those things with intention. Okay? Speak your goals to that soil and that seed as you're doing the planting. So visualize their growth, the plant's growth, along with your hopes and your intentions growing with it. That kind of stuff. Okay? Does that make sense? It does in my head. I'm not sure if it made as much sense coming out, but it does. Put your goals and stuff in with that seed and let them grow together. Now we can also do some egg magic. This seems fun. And we all probably kind of did this in some form or another with not even knowing it. Decorating eggs with sigils and intentions or different colors that represent your wishes or your intentions. Kind of like an Easter egg, but with more. Does that make sense? So you could use natural dyes or different herbs or stuff like that. If you take those dyes and you want to draw those sigils and stuff on there, you can actually take a crayon, a white crayon or whatever, and draw those sigils on that eggshell. And then when you put them in the dye, that part doesn't get any color. So when it comes out, your sigil is perfect. It's right there. Cool, huh? I think so. Now, after you do that, you can put them on your altar if you would like to hold on to them and keep them for the season or however long, or bury them in the earth. Find a nice quiet spot. Bury those eggs to symbolize new life. Cool. I think that's cool. I like that one. Another ritual or practice is cleansing and renewal. Cleanse your home with smoke or bells or spring water or salt water even. Infuse that water with different herbs and stuff. And just kind of cleanse everything out. Get that old energy out. And I know we did some back at Imbolc, but there's nothing wrong with continuing that monthly or quarterly or whatever. You can cleanse your home as much as you like. It's not going to hurt anything. You can also cleanse yourself. And I don't mean like just go take your shower for the day. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, you could. You can do that daily if you like. But this is more of a ritual bath or shower because I personally have showers. Our bathtub's kind of short and my ass is kind of big and no. So showers for me or whoever. So perform a personal ritual bath or shower with different oils or salts, that kind of stuff. Open your windows, sweep out your dust, infuse your space with fresh herbs, citrus scents, or energetic sprays. Cool, right? Now, all right, I'm going to tell a little secret on myself. Our bathroom in the shower, of course, there's a wall there. There's a frosted window. Now, where that window sits, our neighbors can't see that. So in the springtime or even in the winter, because I think it's super interesting to have cold air coming in a very hot shower. But I'll actually open that window and be able to look out into my yard and see the trees and the grass and and feel like that's a part of my cleansing there. I know, a little TMI, but there you go. Do those little things, though. Those little things that make your mind happy, that scratch that weird little itch down deep in your head. Do those things. If it's not hurting anybody, do it. Now, I wouldn't do it if your bathroom window faces your neighbors. That might be weird. Or not. Depends on your neighbors, I guess. But do those little things that, make your brain feel good. Next we have a sunrise meditation or a walk. Welcome the sun at dawn. Greet that light with gratitude and hope and stuff, and breathe in that energy of rebirth, because we do. We have a rebirth every single day. Every time that sun comes up, that is a rebirth from the night. And honestly, a simple walk in nature is an amazing form of meditation. For me, anyway. I hope that other people feel the same way. But there is... Sorry, y'all hear my little Chiweenie back there tip-tapping around. She's eating. There's nothing better than a nice, quiet walk through the woods somewhere. Now, I don't live in the country anymore, so I have to go to a park that has woods, and that's a little bit disappointing, but it's still amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And you need to do those kinds of things before it gets too hot, because I live in the South. It's going to get hotter than Satan's asshole around here eventually, and you're not going to be able to walk around like that. So do it in that springtime. Where was I? Oh, altar setup. Adorn your altar with flowers, with feathers, images of rabbits or birds, and the pastel colors that people like, or crystals, eggs, whether real eggs or symbolic eggs. Some people like to blow the eggs and get all the yolk and everything out of them, and then put those on their altar so they don't rot. That can... I personally have never done that. I do have some crystals in the shape of eggs that I keep on my altar as a form of, I can always, renew myself and have a rebirth if I need it, that kind of stuff. Anything that reminds you of springtime and awakening, put that on your altar. If you change your altar for the seasons. If you don't, well, honey, don't worry about it. This is your craft. You do what you want to do. Cool? Cool. So, some of this different spell work that you can focus on for Ostara. Focus on fertility spells. And that's not just for having babies, okay? That's for body, for fertile mind, or different projects, that kind of stuff. Growth spells, same thing. And to help your intentions to flourish. Love and self-love magic is very potent in this time of year. Balance rituals, especially around mental health or relationships. We could all use better mental health, honestly, and this is a great time of year to kind of focus on that. Focus on spells for new beginnings, for courage, momentum, or turning a fresh page. Get my words together again. Anything to do with a new, renewing, birth, that kind of stuff. Some different journal prompts for reflection. This is one that I'm trying to learn to do, because my ADHD doesn't let me focus a lot, so I'm trying to get into more of the journaling aspect of it. I don't do it nearly as much as I should. So journaling prompts. What seeds or intentions, ideas do I want to plant this season? And then just write about that. Another one, where do I need more balance in my life? What is awakening within me right now? How have I changed since the last equinox? And what does rebirth mean for me spiritually? These are all different journal prompts that you can use. And just kind of just write. It doesn't have to make any sense to anyone but you. And it honestly doesn't even have to make sense to you. It's just letting those words flow. Yeah, I know. I need to do it too. I'm going to work on that. Okay, Ostara within the wheel of the year. It sits opposite Mabon, which is in September. It is more of a harvest-focused equinox, but they share something very interesting. They mark moments of equal light and dark twice a year. So they act kind of as spiritual mirrors, whereas Ostara is full of promise of what can be, and Mabon is more full of gratitude of what has become. Okay. Ostara leads into Beltane, which is the high point of fertility and passion. Once again, fire festival. So work done at Ostara helps to fuel those flames of Beltane. Does that make sense? Sure it does. Reflection. Ostara reminds us that we are allowed to bloom, no matter what's going on. No matter how bad things may seem, you are still allowed to bloom. It is okay to feel joy. It is okay to start over, to rebirth yourself. That is totally okay. It is okay to grow, even if the winter was rough for you or the last year was rough for you. It is okay to let those things go and reinvent yourself. That is perfectly acceptable and encouraged, because we can all try to be better. So your roots are deeper now. Your light is returning. Breathe in that sweetness of spring. Go dance barefoot out in the grass. Plant your dreams. Let your magic blossom. Okay? Just be you. Be true to you. If you need that rebirth, that renewal of spirituality, whatever it is, do it. It's for you. So that's a wrap on today's seasonal spell work, my springtime sweethearts. Up next on the wheel is going to be Beltane, and I know I did an episode about it, like I said, a few weeks ago when it was Beltane, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into it and stuff, and go over some more stuff, which is, of course, the Fire Festival of passion, fertility, and spicy energy. So kind of get ready for that for next week. Now, if you loved this episode or liked this episode or tolerated this episode, whatever, tag a witchy friend. Help my podcast grow like a sunflower in June. Yeah, that's pretty cheesy, wasn't it? Yeah. But yeah, please like, share, follow, all the things. Let your friends know that Raven's Ramblings is streaming on Spotify. Like I said, give me a follow, a review, drop a comment, whatever. Let me hear your voice. I would love to hear from people. That would be amazing. So until next time, stay blooming, stay balanced, and stay magical. Bye.